evening, everyone. This is the Groton Board of Selectmen's meeting for Tuesday, October 17th, 2017. We're starting at 7:22 p.m. as we are just exiting two executive sessions that were held earlier this evening concerning collective bargaining and real estate. So now we're entering into regular session, and under regular session we will have announcements and to review the agenda, which we're doing now, followed by a public comment period, followed by the town manager's report, where we will talk about the selectmen's agenda schedule, consider appointing Ann Foley and Heather Riley to the Prescott Oversight Committee, to vote on the municipal website as the official method of posting meeting notices, to review article assignments and motions for the 2017 Fall Town Meeting. Under other business, we'll talk about the Indian Hill project briefly, and we have selectmen liaison reports, followed by minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of October 25th, 2017. We had executive session minutes of October 10th, 2017. We've already disposed of those, approved them, and not releasing them at this time. And the minutes of the workshop session of October 10th, 2017. So, first thing, any announcements by anybody here?
Town meeting is a week from yesterday, beginning at 7 o'clock at the Performing Arts Center of the Groton Dunstable Regional Middle School on Main Street.
One of the things that was discussed, we had a pre-town meeting discussion to go through the articles with the chair of the FinCom, the town manager, myself, and town council, and we hope to dispose of town meeting in one evening. So that would be a
Is
first.
there a different way of putting that?
I hope that we can dispose of the articles that are in front of us at town meeting in one evening. That's about as nicely as I can say it. If you have other words, please use them on your own time. And any other announcements? Seeing none. Public comment period. Anyone have any comments for this board? Seeing none. Town manager's report, please.
I'm only 10 minutes behind schedule, ladies, and I apologize. Tonight you have Anhi and Heather here. As you know, we're recommending that they be appointed to the Prescott Oversight Committee. You've already appointed John Amaral to the 3-year term on the committee. John did call me the other day and said he wants to stay on the committee, but he's not sure he can give the full 3-year commitment because of other business that he has going on in his life. And he'd asked if the board would consider moving him to the 1-year term. If things settle down for him, he will definitely re-up for the 3-year term when his term is up at the end of next year. But he asked you to consider doing that, and I'd ask the board to consider doing that. I strongly recommend Anhi and Heather to the committee. I've had the opportunity to work with both of them, and they're consummate professionals, and I think they would be outstanding on the committee. So that's my recommendation.
Are we doing a 2- and 3-year term here tonight? Is that?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to ask you to do.
Yeah. Okay. And who are you recommending for the 2-year term?
Heather, would you like the 2-year term or the 3-year term? I'll leave it up. I'll let them battle it out. I don't have a recommendation, Jack.
The 1-year term, but the 2-year term, and then I'm happy to do either. I'll take the lower number. Okay, I'm happy to do the 3.
Okay. So before we decide on appointing these two, do any of the selectmen have any questions relative to the qualifications these folks have to serve on this oversight committee?
I'd like to offer my observation. It might hint at some of your questions, if I may.
Sure.
I've had experience working with both of these individuals in our in the sustainability project, and the observations, questions, the way they're posed, the way they're handled, is just extraordinary, and I think will be a valuable asset to the oversight committee in a variety of ways, largely in thinking about what could, in the what if scenarios. I've just been I can't say how wonderful it's been. And Heather, I've had the opportunity to work with on the nonprofit council, and the commitment to getting things done, the commitment to the success of the nonprofits, but also the objectivity that comes with banking. I've been very impressed with. And so I think that, especially given the task of the Oversight Council, which is to look out for the public, but also look out for the success of Friends of Prescott, is going to be extraordinarily well met by these two individuals. And so I offer my full endorsement on both.
Becky?
Yes, so you weren't here at the meeting when we appointed John Emerald. And I asked him a question, and then I wrote and told Anhi and Heather I'd be asking them the same question. 2 questions, actually. So I'd like you to just share with us, what is your interest in being on this committee, and what strengths you feel like you bring to it? And I don't really care who goes first.
And we need to, please grab.
Oh,
Yes.
you have to speak to the mic. That's for the cable TV.
You don't have to turn it on, just grab it.
It's on already.
It's on?
It's for the
It
TV.
won't amplify.
It's for TV.
Doesn't do anything in here, does everything for them at home.
Okay. So good evening, thank you. I'm Heather Riley, and I appreciate being considered for the position. So I am fairly new to town. We moved here in the summer of 2016, and we were very fortunate in that the individuals that we purchased our home from were long residents of Groton and very involved in supporting the community in various ways. Very early on in our relationship, I had indicated that that's something that has been important to me in my past, is being involved where I live. Coming from Arlington, I was very involved with the Friends of the Council on Aging and worked with them to put together a few really critical initiatives that helped drive some strong revenue for the organization and continues to happen on an ongoing basis. So I was introduced to Jack and heard about this committee, which I was very intrigued by because I love the idea of having a space that is for the community and to benefit the community and preserving the beautiful asset that is the school. So that is where the interest came. I was looking to get involved again locally, and with my background in both banking and finance for almost the past 20 years, primarily working with business and commercial customers, and now focusing with nonprofits in what I do professionally, I have a really good understanding of the inner workings of budgets, of leases. I was a commercial lender for a while, and I think some of the strengths that I bring to the table, I'm a good problem solver. I tend to have good ideas, but not just have good ideas, am able to collectively with a team implement those ideas. And I think that I work well with others even when there's varying opinions on different topics. And I'm really excited to be here. And I think what you're doing with the Prescott School is great.
Thank you.
My name's Anhi. It's nice to see all of you again. My interest is really just very simple. I'm interested in our town. I live here. I'm also fairly new. I'm raising my children here, and I want it to be a beautiful experience for them. So my interest is in making sure that how the town is run in all aspects of the town is supportive of a life that is comfortable for my children and gives them a happy place to grow up and build great memories. And this opportunity came up, and I've heard about the Prescott School and some of the controversy around it and some of the ideas and interests, and I think there's a great opportunity there that I'm hopeful that I can contribute to. My background is in management and business strategy around primarily nonprofits, so I haven't really done much around building management. However, I do hope that I can bring my experience and interests and insights to the strategy of where the Prescott School needs to be, what direction it needs to go into. I understand from the charge actually that I read was rather simple, so it didn't seem like it needed too much in terms of qualifications. However, I'm guessing that there's some overlap in sort of giving input around how to manage the building longer term. So if I can be of service to the town and to my community, I'm happy to do so.
can I just say, I think we're incredibly lucky to have the two of these wonderful volunteers and John Amaral, the third one. I think it sounds like a
Great committee.
5-star committee.
It absolutely is.
Barry?
We need to move to change John Emerald's term from 3 to 1. So I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Well,
Anybody else want to?
how about if we finish the discussion and then we can deal with that?
Keep going. I don't have any questions. I was already ready before, so I'm good.
You're 1 of 5. Allison?
So thank you both for coming forward and expressing interest in this. Given the political nature of this project, I can see potential conflicts down the line. Obviously, everyone in the community and in this room wants the Friends of Prescott to be tremendously successful. If there are difficult decisions to be made around the recommendations that your group would give to the Board of Selectmen, how do you kind of anticipate balancing that desire for success with a reality that may have shortcomings or weaknesses?
Microphone.
No, I just from the research that I've done in talking to individuals in town, I do know that there has been some tension around this, and going forward there will likely continue to be. I feel confident in my ability to be able to work with various individuals, regardless of what their, opinions are going to differ. There's going to be some bumps in the road. In my career, one of the things that I have been able to do well is work through those situations. Not be afraid to speak up when I feel strongly about something, or that I feel that something is not, making sure that we're measuring according to what the strategy is, and if we're coming off balance with that, being able to kind of regroup, but in a way that's supportive and not blaming, or how collectively can we all be successful. So I'm expecting that there's going to be some of that, and I'm okay with that.
So I've had my fair share of politically charged environments to work in, and I'm okay with it. We won't go into my resume, but I'm okay with the politically charged nature of work that you do. At the end of the day, my philosophy is that, the town runs for the people. The people pay taxes, it pays for all of the services in the town, and so at the end of the day, it's what the town chooses. It's really not my decision. I can provide insight and input and give information to the town to make a decision that's right for everyone. But again, if it disagrees with what my personal opinion is, so be it. We live in a community, and that's how we all exist together.
Thank you.
All set?
Yeah.
Hold on to that for a second. Thanks. So certainly, I think the vast majority of people want to see Friends of the Prescott succeed. And they are in the infancy of their life. And their growth is dependent upon the success of what's currently going on and what will go on in the spring. And they're using a small percentage of a building that needs to be utilized to a much larger extent once the school district vacates that building. And that my question for both of you will be the same, is that can we count on you to make recommendations that are in the best interests of the town while wanting the success of Friends of the Prescott to work, that their plan has financial viability for success for that building, at the same time being taxpayer neutral with the exception of any grants that they may seek. So that said, will you be able to use your work experience to impartially evaluate their plans moving forward to make recommendations to this board?
So absolutely, I've managed nonprofits in my past. All of my entire career has been the nonprofits, and there's always sort of this idea or belief that nonprofits shouldn't make money and that we should all be scrimping and saving, and really, it really keeps us from doing the work that we need to do. I'm a believer that we need to be self-sustainable, and we need to be strong, and we can only do that if we have financial viability. So I don't shy away from saying that some nonprofits need to make a profit so that we can do more and advance our mission. In the same way, in this circumstance, I assume there are going to be a lot of difficult decisions. And in some instances, we're going to have to make a decision or a recommendation that is more practical, and it may not be the most idealistic way that we want the school to be managed for the time being, but it may be a difficult decision we have to make temporarily in order for us to get to a place of viability, or sustainability. So, yes, I'm confident that I can make recommendations that I feel is long-term strategically the best recommendation for the school.
Thanks, honey.
What she said, but no, and I feel the same way in my position, especially as a commercial lender, to use as an example where, you know, my employer is the bank, but I'm also my client, the customer. I'm also advocating for them and supporting them, you know, and it's a very complicated process going through if someone's applying for a loan, say a commercial loan, and we're vetting and we're going through all sorts of things. And even though maybe there's good intentions there, that customer has and plans and what they want to do, and but on the other hand, it may not financially make sense. And so being able to make those tough decisions, or to be able to say when something isn't working, just as well as it is working, to be okay to say that, and to go back and to be able to deliver that message.
Thank you. So I'm all set as well. So Barry, you want to get back to where you were 5 minutes ago?
There's been a motion, it's been seconded, so we're good to go on that.
Okay. So there's been a motion to appoint John Amaral, change the appointment of John Amaral to serve the one-year term. It's been made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next motion?
I move that we appoint Anhi Foley to a 2-year term on the Prescott Oversight Committee. Did I get that right, 2 years? Yes.
Motion's been made and
Seconded.
seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
And I move that we vote to approve Heather Riley to a 3-year term, God bless her, on the Prescott Oversight Committee.
Did you get the God bless you? God bless her.
Motions are made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you both. We
Just
wish-
to update everybody to where we are.
Whoa, 1 sec. Just make sure you get sworn in from the town clerk, and Mark will schedule.
We'll schedule a meeting, but I want to update the board on, while the ladies are here, on Prescott. Jack, Josh, Bud, and I will be meeting Thursday morning at 7 a.m., right? With the Friends of Prescott to continue our lease negotiations to bring back to the board. Once that's done, the Prescott Oversight Committee will be in full force.
Thursday morning at 7 a.m.
They're not in force until those negotiations are concluded?
We don't have anything to enforce.
Their lease currently is with the school district
Not
for
with
the
us.
current year. So,
But is there nothing that the committee can do to work? I mean, they're in the process now of putting together a business plan, for instance.
Well, let's talk about that Thursday morning with the Friends.
All right. I'd
So
also,
that's I'm sorry, apologize, Jack.
I'd also encourage you to take a look at the charge, which is very simple today, and think about modifying it and strengthening it and bringing it back to us. Because that's very common to do, is that a group forms and starts to think about the things that they would like to do and sort of validates what they want to do with the board, so there's no confusion. So I think the three of you would be well served by doing that.
I'll get together with you and schedule the first meeting.
Mark, I remind you that since this board appointed Jack and Josh to do those negotiations, it's officially a subcommittee, so it needs to have open meeting minutes and everything according to.
Well, I'm going to ask one of you not to come because I want to meet Thursday morning at 7.
me,
Thank you.
as a matter of fact.
Thank you, Barry.
As
You're
a matter of
100%
fact,
correct.
I tendered my resignation from the negotiating
Subcommittee that.
subcommittee, and
We dissolved the subcommittee.
would dissolve the subcommittee.
Excellent. Everything's going according to plan.
So, everybody by consensus, you all fine with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I will be in touch. Thank you so much. I'm very excited that you, John, and are all part of the committee. It's gonna be a great committee.
Thank you for spelling my name correctly. That was,
Heather, I look at that
I know.
because spell check comes up and wants to
I know.
reverse it.
Listen,
How else would you spell Heather?
No, right.
Sense of humor is important.
Bye, Heather, bye, Heather.
Yeah, if you find one, give it to him, will you?
All right, moving right along, Mr. Town Manager.
Hold on, my microphone dropped. So, Mr. Chairman, during your open meeting law training, Town Council communicated a slight tweak in the way the Attorney General has worded the ability to use the town's website as the official posting method for public notices. Back in 2011, we told the Attorney General that we're going to use our public meeting calendar at the town of Groton and the bulletin board located in the front foyer of the town hall as our method. Town Council stated that the new regulations state that the AG authorizes use of municipal website as the official posting. This is consistent with our current practice. However, the choice of the new regulation has to be made by the Board of Selectmen as the Chief Executive Officer, and Town Council wants you to reiterate that vote. So tonight I would ask you to please vote that we are using the town website at www.townofgroton.org as the official posting method.
And the bulletin board
And the bulletin
located
board. Yep.
in the front foyer of Town Hall.
Correct.
As a courtesy,
As a courtesy.
that's not the
Courtesy.
official.
The official is the website.
I move that we inform the Attorney General that the town of Groton will be using the public meeting calendar at www.townofgroton.org as its official posting method.
Motion's been made,
Second.
seconded, further discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
Can I just clarify, we're just basically, nothing's changing in the way we're doing it, we're just
Correct.
taking a vote to say,
We're codifying according to the new rules.
Yes.
Mark is the one I'm asking.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm
More
jumping into my
yeses.
next item.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely, Becky.
Nothing's changing.
Nothing's changing. We're going to
Okay.
continue to post meetings on the town website. Mr. Chairman, I would like to get into the town meeting for next week. Allison and I exchanged emails earlier in the week, and one of the questions that Allison asked was, how do we go about making presentations at town meeting? Who makes motions? Are there minority reports based on positions of the board and how that all happens? And I told Allison that we would discuss that tonight as part of the prep for next Monday night. Next Monday night's town meeting. This afternoon, I held my annual, semi-annual pre-town meeting review with the chairman of the finance committee, chairman of the board of selectmen, town council, town moderator, town clerk, town accountant, myself, and Dawn, to go over the motions to make sure that we understood exactly what was going on. We made some tweaks to the motions that you had got previously. What you have before you in your agendas is what transpired today. So what I would like to do is explain the process, what happens as far as assignments go and who moves the article and makes the presentation. The chairman and I sit down and we assign the articles to the various individuals. 3 years ago, the board changed the process because what happened before was the Board of Selectmen would move every article. So what happened is the Board of Selectmen would get up, move the article, and then if it was somebody other than a Board of Selectmen article, that next person would get up and make a presentation. We decided that the person who is making the motion is the presenter of the article, if it's a Board of Selectmen sponsored article. So what you'll see here is the people that are presenting the articles are who the sponsors of the articles move the articles. And then they make their presentation and explain it and then answer questions, and I'm always here for backup and support on those matters. So, the first article is the citizen's petition. John Sabal is the petitioner, lead petitioner. He will move the article into play. And then there'll be a debate and so on and so forth. Now, the Board of Selectmen has not taken, have they taken a position on this? I think
Except for peace.
Okay, so the board is recommending against this article. So to answer Allison's question, the board needs to decide, are you going to make a presentation against this particular article? And the question is, if so, who's going to make it?
So, before we get to that, right now, we are 4 against, and 1 no position.
One at town meeting.
So you're still at town meeting? All right, now the next question would be, are you, or is anyone prepared on behalf of the Board of Selectmen to make a presentation?
I am.
Okay.
Would like to-
Well, what are you prepared to say in your presentation?
I don't know just yet, but I think I would
Well,
offer,
I think we should know.
this is with regard to Article 1.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of need to know what you're going to say if you're going to represent the board, because the entire board may not hold true to what you may say.
Okay. Well, so that would kind of require that I have the presentation ready for you tonight, and I don't. So what I would probably cover are issues with regard to the various allegations that Mr. Kalpe failed to provide adequate time for debate, allegations that there was collusion between various entities, suggestions that there was no public disclosure of the intent to place artifacts underneath the stones, and lastly, the idea that the issue that all are welcome is public safety, a threat to public safety.
Okay.
I'm sure there are a dozen other bullet points, but I actually didn't come here prepared to describe my presentation
Right.
tonight, so I apologize.
So we covered this during our discussion earlier today, and town council does not believe that we should be in a position, nor does the moderator, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong here, of defending a position about the moderator and any actions he may or may not have taken, any allegations against him of collusion with members of the Board of Selectmen. They believe that we should deal with the article relative to specifically what it says right in here and the arguments about changing it from all are welcome to welcome. That's what town council said, and that if issues come up relative to some of the things that you just alluded to, that the individuals that are called out would be able to address them, not from the microphone on the stage if it's as an individual, but going down to the floor to address those issues. Is that a fair synopsis of that?
That's, yes.
What did town council suggest would be the appropriate response, and more importantly, who would make it if there are allegations made about Jason Kalpe's management of the previous town meeting?
Well, it's interesting that you should say that, because I have a motion here that I would like to read into the record before we go to that point. And I'm going to move this, that the actions of our town moderator, Jason...
Are we talking about?
We're talking about Article 1, and we're talking about an issue as it relates to that might be able to dispel some of the issues that would come up at town meeting.
But is this a motion for tonight's meeting right
This
now?
is a motion for right here, right now.
Which isn't a discussion about Article 1. Is that separate?
I think it's tied to Article 1. I let Josh read his motion into the
You
record.
can decide to ignore it, you can decide whatever you want
I
to do
think it
with
is tied to Article 1.
But I think it's absolutely tied to Article 1.
After you've read it into the record, we can decide to ignore it?
We can say
Yes.
not to second it.
Okay.
That's exactly.
Yeah, you don't have to second it. The actions of our town moderator, Jason Copey, have been called into question over his handling of the All Are Welcome markers article at the spring town meeting of 2017. We have all seen Jason handle many difficult articles over the better part of the last decade. We, as a Board of Selectmen, hold the firm belief that his handling of each and every article that he has moderated has been done so beyond reproach. Therefore, I offer the motion affirming our complete faith in both his past and future abilities to continue as our moderator.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
Is that town council wrote that for
No.
us?
No, that would be Joshua Deegan who wrote that.
Are we allowed to, does it matter if we affirm another elected official or not?
It's showing support of our moderator. You don't want to, you don't have
No
to.
problem,
Well, so-
I just don't know if it's
Here
appropriate.
it is if you'd like to read
I
it.
just don't know if it's appropriate, that's all.
Did
Well-
you discuss this with town council?
I discussed this with the town manager. I
And
discussed
town
this with the
council?
town moderator, and I discussed this with town council.
Correct.
Well, this is just a motion for us to
Just a
affirm.
motion.
Just a motion for us to affirm here tonight.
I'm trying to get something
Josh,
out of
would
the
you let me
way.
finish my sentence?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. This is just a motion for us to affirm tonight. This has no, town council doesn't really need to weigh in on this. This is just something, do we want to make a public statement about this? Which is why it has nothing to do with Article 1. It's a public statement for us to make. But, yeah, so I don't see a need to involve town council on it personally.
Oh,
I also don't see it
I
as
wanted
appropriate to
to be-
discuss here.
I wanted to be clear that there would not be some further objection, that it was not appropriate to do this. I personally strongly support Jason's handling of it, and I would like us to go on record as saying that we support him. So I'm in
Further
favor.
discussion?
I'm in favor of this.
I think it's challenging for people to recognize that we see a lot from the stage. We see a lot more than people think we see, and the optics from the stage or the visuals from the stage are much clearer than they are from being in and amongst the audience. And you can look at a video, you can look at all kinds of things, but when you have the same perspective and you come to the same conclusion as the moderator did regarding what was happening that evening, you know, I just don't see how you can call his judgment into question at all. I've firmly supported, personally, privately, publicly, his actions, not even his actions, his appropriately handling of the situation, and I will continue to do so.
Further discussion? All those,
About making
about
a
the
statement.
motion,
Okay, not Article
No,
1.
about this motion.
Yeah,
about the
okay.
motion that I've made.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Sorry, now back on to this. So, town council says specifically
Thank you.
that there is no financing mechanism for the town of Groton to remove these markers. Made that very clear. And that if this motion was to, if this article was to pass a town meeting, what he said, there was nothing to compel the Board of
There's nothing to
Selectmen?
compel the board to enforce this as advisory only. The
That would
difference
be,
between,
that
well,
would
I'm
be
just saying,
so ugly.
I know, but.
This is what town council said today, without even being prompted.
That would-
I would never,
That's
I would never
hypocrisy.
suggest to the board not to adhere to a
Right.
vote of town meeting.
And to even bring it up sets us up for allegations of hypocrisy.
But
We
there's
shouldn't even
no
be talking
funding
about this.
mechanism, that's
It's-
what,
That's
we
the
should-
issue.
We shouldn't even be discussing that, Josh. That says we will have it one way if we're discussing a vote we win, and we'll have it another way if we discuss a vote we lose. We shouldn't even be talking about that.
well, we'll need a funding mechanism if the vote goes in favor of the citizens petition to fund it moving into Springtown meeting.
It'd be the same funding mechanism that installed the stones.
No, the funding mechanism that installed the stones was $1 as a token symbol along with private donations in order to fund the stones.
Private donations didn't install the stones. Town money installed the stones. Town time and labor installed them as a result of a vote of town meeting, and town labor would take them out if that's what town meeting tells us to do. And to say otherwise, I wouldn't, I'm the biggest advocate for blowing this thing out of the water, and I still think that's an amazingly ill-advised thing to even discuss right now.
Mark, is that the case?
Well, I understand Jack's point. I think town council was only cautioning the selectmen that this is an advisory opinion and there is no funding mechanism within this article to direct the town as there was in the original article. That's what town council said. I understand your point 100%, but that's all town council was doing today.
Town council says that we don't have to do it if town meeting votes in favor.
This is well, you didn't have to do the original stones. Either. Town
Exactly.
council said the same thing.
Exactly. That's exactly.
So he's just reiterating that point. I think Josh is reiterating it to the selectmen. I see no problem with
That's
that.
all I'm saying.
But town council advised you, Josh is advising us that we don't really have to do what town meeting told us
Well,
to
I
do.
didn't say we shouldn't do what town meeting votes.
I didn't say you did. I said you're advising us that we don't have to, which the mere discussion of suggests
Let's,
hypocrisy on our part.
if we may, Jack has presented you his presentation. Is the board comfortable with Jack's presentation?
Well,
That's
so the other issue, I'm sorry, as I said, I wasn't prepared to discuss this. The other issue is what does removing the word all mean? And if that's more in keeping with this article, I'm glad to constrain a discussion to that.
Well,
I
think
didn't
that's,
follow what you just said.
I was told that we should not be discussing things that aren't contained in this article. This article appears things like allegations of collusion, et cetera, allegations of
let's see that.
inappropriate time provided.
So I think what was
So-
said was that it should not be in an initial presentation. We should wait till those things are raised and then rebut them.
So if I could finish, So that was what I had hoped to present. It's suggested that shouldn't be in a presentation, understood. What I would like to present is a well-constructed argument about what removing all means.
That's what I think you should do.
I'm hoping, if I may, I'm hoping that the focus of the presentation by the proponents of this article is on the basis of what all are welcome is. Nothing to do with procedure, nothing to do with how it is. I said I'm hoping,
Yeah.
Jack.
Right.
And I'm hoping that if that's the case, the board's response should be what it means to take all out. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, I think there is also another point that I feel strongly about, that I think as a town, we would be setting ourselves a very dangerous precedent that if a town meeting vote goes in a way that you or a group don't like, that bringing it back again, they can get it changed. Now, legally, that is an option, but whether that is the wise thing, a wise way to govern, I would submit that it is not wise, and that is one of the main reasons to vote against this, because, I mean, none of us on the planet, or certainly none of us at town meeting, could say every vote has always gone the way I wanted it to. Therefore, if we open ourselves up to this new process, well, just gather a bunch of friends and bring another article forward, maybe you can get it changed. I think that's really a bad precedent.
Barry?
And yet, how is that different from previous years where the Board of Selectmen has put an article on one warrant, it didn't pass, so they brought it back to another warrant and to try to get it passed, and maybe even sometimes a third article. This is town meeting politics 101. If you don't like what you get the first time, you bring it back 3-4 times until you get the answer you want. And it's going to keep happening.
It's different.
But
Well,
I would-
it's very different than that, I think.
But I actually think that was the first example of it's bad policy, and I would remind the town meeting voters that we have in the past rejected when the same when something came back a second time, because it's not good government to
Actually, there
act
have
that way.
been times when you came back a third time and it
Yeah.
passed. So I think that's it's the public's right to do whatever you want, and it's the
There's a
selectmen's right to
difference,
put
though,
something
Barry.
back on the article.
Big difference is you're absolutely right. The selectmen have come back multiple times on things like setting of a fire station, okay, which is maybe what you're alluding to, okay? However, the difference is that taxpayer funds and private funds have not been expended in order to move forward with something. And for an individual, let's use, for example, this turf field that funds are being raised for privately at the school, and the school committee has approved, and $1 million+ needs to be raised in order to get this in. And the school committee said, great, go ahead. Well, all of a sudden, somebody comes up with an article for a town meeting that says, you know something, we don't want turf fields, they're bad, okay? So I'm gonna come into town meeting, and they reject turf fields within the town of Groton, and all this money has been appropriated. Anybody who gave money to this, if town meeting is gonna undo as a private donor, would be highly unlikely to want to donate money for any other town cause in the future if town meeting would have the ability to undo a vote that duly harmed their financial contributions.
I think the biggest reason that it's different is that for things like the fire station, there was a proposal to do a specific thing, and the specific thing was rejected as either ill-founded, incomplete, or wrong. And so when the proposal to place the fire station at Sacred Heart was rejected, the town took that as, all right, we won't do it at Sacred Heart, or if we're going to do it at Sacred Heart, we have to provide different information. So the town comes back either with more information or an alternative site. It's not like we're basically flip-flopping on, basically asking the town to do the same thing over again. So I think there's some difference, or some subtle difference in that instance of bringing things back.
And this is different than the original one. Right? This is not saying
Yeah, I mean, I think
take
it is.
them out, which would have been the opposite, right? This is saying change them.
This is
So therefore, just like changing the location of the fire station, it's a different article to change the wording. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying if you guys want to go down this road of you shouldn't be undoing something previous town meeting's done, keep in mind that that's just as, you know, just much hypocrisy as, well, it's just an advisory vote and we probably shouldn't list them anyway. So I just be careful in these arguments because history has a way of kicking you right in the face when you try to make these arguments in your favor.
Fair enough.
Um,
Allison?
So I guess I'm struggling with how much time and effort we want to put into this or really create. I mean, this has been contentious at various times and has, you know, there have been peaks and valleys in terms of the level of discussion, I guess. So I would advocate for just a very simple statement that the majority of the Board of Selectmen voted against this article, that as a community we've spent tremendous resources on this topic and the process has been divisive, that we're urging citizens to vote no, affirming the previous town meeting vote, leaving things as they currently are and allowing our community to move forward. I'm really hesitant to recommend that we open Pandora's box in terms of letting out or bringing to the forefront any of the reasons that this has been divisive.
I would love if a different member of the board than Jack were actually to make that case as the opening presentation. I think the board, at least 4 of us have voted strongly against this article. I don't think it serves us or Jack or the community well to have it appear to be driven by him. So I think that's a great argument to be made, Allison, and as the opening presentation that is not provocative, it doesn't open up an invite argument, it states the case. I think we need to be prepared to rebut things that get raised, and you know, I'm sure that many of us would have things to say in that regard.
And I think we all can say those things, but
Right.
Allison, you said that pretty concisely, and I do agree with you. And Jack, you know that I've supported this from the very beginning. And that if during the course of discussion on this article, that your name calls up and calls of collusion and various things, I think you have that right to do the presentation you wanted to do, but in context to a response from those things coming forward. If somebody calls you out by name about doing something, I think you have the right to respond to it.
Even by
course.
inference.
You know, even influence, okay? And I fully support that, but Allison's right. If we can get this thing through without a lot of argument, just on the merits of what was already approved and keeping it simple, I really think that's cleaner. And that's where I stand on this as well.
Kind of puts us on the high road, I think.
First of all, I appreciate people saying that, implying that you don't think I should have to defend this. The implication being that it takes the heat off of me. Well, I appreciate that. I don't need that, and I'll let you know if I need the heat off me, and I certainly don't here. If the idea of having someone else do this or not doing anything at all, or any alternative to having me do this, will advance this article and the probability of it being rejected, I'm all for it. And I have a biased view on it right now because of my closeness to it, and I accept that. But I do think that having someone from our group who can put good, strong arguments together, focused if they need to be focused on the issue of all, or on the issue of the precedent that's set for bringing things back, or whatever the constraint is, I think there's a benefit in having an argument presented, not just a brief position of, we don't think this is right and we hope you come to the right decision. I think the audience is limited to 3 minutes. You can't cover a lot of good things in depth in 3 minutes, and people sometimes don't know what they're going to say till they get up there. There's a benefit in having someone have a well thought out position ahead of time, a well stated, eloquent position, and being able to address the kinds of things that people are really thinking of. And having that come from the podium, I think, is exactly the kind of thing that the public looks to us for, as foundations for their consideration through the balance of the discussion.
And one of us have a held vote to display at town meeting.
So that means that you would want to state your
I plan to
position.
be speaking at town meeting.
So do I. But who's gonna speak for this
For
board?
three
Is it-
minutes.
Who's gonna speak for this board?
The
That's,
board would have more than 3 minutes, is what Jack is saying.
That's, I hear what Jack's saying.
One person has more than 3 minutes to
Correct.
put a well-stated argument together that can address the range of issues eloquently, addressing the expected issues that will be brought to the floor in anticipation of those issues, offering, so don't lose this opportunity.
Fine, what's the, Allison makes a good point, Jack, you make an excellent point, and Barry, you make a valid point too.
I think it's really important that we just keep this short and sweet. That the fact that we have more than 3 minutes does not push us in any way to use them. I don't think we want to raise any number of issues that are, at this point, in no way directly tied to this article.
One thing the town council did say today, in support of what Allison's saying, is that if you put oxygen on something, it tends to expand. Allison, I understand why Jack wants to do the presentation. I think, though, what Allison's saying in terms of keeping it concise and brief and not putting oxygen on it, I think helps the argument in the long run. Just my 2 cents.
What I would suggest would be that both Jack and Allison, see if you're willing to do this article, is reduced to a 3-minute presentation, something you can show this board at town meeting, at our meeting at 6 PM prior, to see who should move this article. And that Jack,
Who should be the board of
who should
selectmen
be the
speaker.
Board of Selectmen speaker. And that Jack, if you want to make a presentation, and it's not you, that you're going to need to hone it down to 3 minutes.
Why is it 3 minutes, Josh?
Because that's all it would be if you were not the mover, not, excuse me, not the
Why would I
mover.
bother going through the gauntlet of you guys approving it when I could just stand up at any point and give 3 minutes?
You
Because who is speaking on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and who is speaking as a private citizen are 2 different issues. You have that full right to speak as a private citizen. And I have some things that I'm going to add to the conversation. But what I say may not be relative to the board's position.
But
The
the
3-minute
board's
constraint is
position,
artificial.
yeah, board's position doesn't have to be limited to 3 minutes.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, Mark pointed this out, and I think it was Bud Robertson actually during the meeting was the one who said that putting more fuel out there along with oxygen is going to create a more heated,
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And putting a well-structured argument together can absolutely lay a fire dead in its tracks. So yeah, you can inflame a fire and you can suppress a fire, and that's the job of people who stand up and speak. I don't know where the assumption comes that you're throwing, that whatever is said is going to throw fuel on a fire. I don't know where that comes from. Tell me where that comes from.
that comes from town council and Bud Robertson's perspective about keeping this simple and to the point. And I do believe that the moderator's preference was to keep him and the accusations that have been cast his way out of this discussion. Is that what he said today?
He wants to keep it very, very professional and to the point.
That's a very reasonable request. That doesn't mean that the resulting presentation needs to be constrained to 3 minutes. They're 2 different things.
All right, well, we could sit here all night and discuss this. What's the preference of this board on this? I already heard your position.
I would like
on
to
it.
say that some member of this board should stand up and make a well-constructed, eloquent argument about the value of all in these stones and whatever other elements we believe are important to present. That it shouldn't be constrained to the 3 minutes that everyone's allowed to have. We have an opportunity to represent and defend something that we have voted in favor of once before, passed through town meeting once before, and have voted in favor of supporting today. We should not think that we are constrained to a 3-minute presentation just for any reason.
So is it legal for Jack to talk with someone else in creating something between now?
As long as it's not a board sanctioned subcommittee, there's nothing prohibited.
Between
the
now and
selectmen
Monday,
Correct.
I'm really uncomfortable with, he works hard on writing something, Allison writes something, and an hour before the meeting's gonna happen, we're debating whether or not it should be set, that seems unfair.
Well,
I
I would
agree.
suggest
And I
that
think
maybe
that we
two
need to make a decision
selectmen
tonight.
get together on their own and discuss it.
How about this? How about if I work on a presentation for town meeting, and maybe I'll contact at least one, maybe I'll contact one selectman, which is my right when I work on individual things. And we'll bring that to the board for review on the meeting before town meeting.
Perfect. I think that's a wonderful suggestion.
But
Board
if-
members?
At the 6 PM meeting, you mean?
I would suggest personally that you and Allison.
I don't
No,
want
you don't want to do that. You don't
Oh,
want to
then we
suggest-
designate, thank you. I get it, I get it, I get it. I get it.
Article
Just
2.
recognize that I
No.
cannot, since I did not take a vote, it is not reflective of, I can't be involved in that decision or part of it.
Baloney.
Just recognize that. At this point in time, I cannot be.
That's incorrect. I can go and ask one board member for their opinions, thoughts, opinions, feelings on any subject, and they can give them to me. Doesn't matter what they voted or didn't vote.
That is true.
I mean, as far as
The overall presentation.
overall presentation.
I get it. Jack, I think you've heard what everybody has to say. Why don't you do that, and we will discuss this at 6 PM next week?
If this discussion is a
Yes.
prelude to town meeting, we'll be on
It is.
3 nights.
I just want to
One
make
night.
it, I just want to make it really clear that I stand by the summary that I had presented, and I have no intent to waver to anything longer in any way. So.
Okay.
What summary?
That she's
What she said
That
about
the
10 minutes
majority of the
ago.
Board of Selectmen voted against this article.
Okay.
There have been tremendous resources spent on this divisive topic. A no vote on this article will affirm the previous town meeting vote and will leave the stones in place as they currently are. The needs of our community are best served by a no vote on this article.
Fair enough. Article 2.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as you know, Sprague Energy had sent us an invoice for
And the
26.
chairman may know, but nobody else may.
Exactly.
Well,
No, I said as the board knows.
The board doesn't know.
The board didn't know until I looked at it a minute ago.
we've had this conversation before about Sprague Energy.
okay, look,
I thought I had
Gary,
sent an email to the board about
Gary,
Sprague
Jack,
Energy.
and myself are familiar with this problem.
No, I think Becky and Allison are
Okay,
too.
well,
Regardless.
how about,
Let's
do me a
Let me
favor,
speak.
enlighten us.
Let me speak. I had previously sent the board an email explaining a contract that was signed for gas distribution from Sprague Energy that I didn't sign, that bound the town to some gas charges that we weren't responsible for.
Correct.
Sprague Energy has said it's a binding contract and has come after us and said they want $28,000. I believe I sent an email to all 5 members on this, and that's what I was saying at the
Allison,
beginning.
did you ever see anything on this?
I think
don't-
there was an email a while ago
Yes.
on this,
Yep, I believe I did. That's
not
all I'm saying.
relating
So
to prior years.
we have been fighting over the last 6 months with Sprague Energy on this very subject, trying to negotiate a settlement with them. We offered $10,000. Sprague Energy came back and said they want $18,000. I'm willing to go to $14,000, and town council is debating that as we speak. So we do have to put something on here to try to settle this. So this motion, hopefully by Monday, I'll have the 2 attorneys together, and we'll have a number in here. It'll be either 14 or 18.
I'm not gonna support this, even if it's $1. I just wanna make that clear, that somebody executed this contract who was not a duly authorized individual to execute this contract, and therefore, good luck to Sprague Energy, who did not deliver the fuel, okay? The gas was delivered by National Grid. These folks somehow weaseled their way into the middle as a third-party agent in order to charge the town fees that it wouldn't have had to pay. And as far as I'm concerned, Mark didn't sign this contract, Tom Delaney didn't sign this contract. Don't take us to court. They don't even do business here in town anymore.
So I have nothing to talk about on Articles 3, 4.
Well, I want to
Whoa,
hear
whoa, whoa,
the
sorry.
position on the other board members on this.
I apologize, I'm not at all familiar with this issue. This is an issue from quite some time ago.
I think I sent the email to you in June.
Police Department gas, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, okay, well, what is town council's position in terms of our liability?
He doesn't think we have a strong liability, but you never know what happens once you go to court, so he's, at my direction, trying to settle the case.
So at court, could we owe more than $28,000?
No, we will never owe more than what we,
So,
other than, you know,
Lawyers'
fees.
What about lawyer
So-
fees?
Lawyers' fees.
so we have the potential of a zero liability, $14,000 liability, $18,000 liability, and a $28,000 liability, plus
Plus
potentially
legal
lawyers,
fees.
plus lawyers' fees. Thank you.
Are the lawyer fees, would the lawyer fees potentially add up to anywhere near the $10,000 to $14,000 sum?
Goes to court.
If it goes to court, I would say yes.
Goes to court.
Yeah, so I just want those situations, unfortunately, even though you're absolutely right, if they take us to court to try to prove that it's, you know, that it's no stand, even if we go to $0 settlement, we're still paying probably the same amount of money. Now, the principal thing, I'm actually all for, to be honest with you, the principal thing, because it wasn't really extra common, but as a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers, I know that I can hold that principle.
You don't have to pay them now.
Could I just ask one more question? You're saying, Josh, we did not use the gas?
No, we didn't
No.
use the gas.
So
I'm
we,
saying-
so we simply, so we have a contractual obligation here, but we have no moral obligation in terms of we did not benefit to the tune of $28,000.
Did we pay National Grid for this fee?
We paid a fee for the gas, but the meters were, there's a problem with the meters, and there was a problem whether or not we had to pay the distribution costs as well.
Yeah.
We have paid National Grid the gas
We
that they
paid
delivered
for the
to us.
gas we used.
This is the
That's all I'm
distribution
trying
fee
to
that
say.
they're trying to get to us.
Okay, but so, just to, I apologize for taking this, so I
No,
do
it's
recall this
important
issue from a long time ago, I think it was more than 6 months ago, perhaps the last
This
email.
goes way back.
Yeah, perhaps the last email was 6 months ago,
Mhm.
but we used a certain capacity of gas. We paid only for the material, the gas materials, we did not pay for the transmission.
Correct.
So let's just use easy figures. We pay, if there was 100 gallons of gas, and 100 gallons of gas costs $100, made up of transmission of 25 cents and actual fuel costs of 75, we paid the 75. So had we actually, had everything worked, we would have paid the $100.
Probably.
So I have to say, I feel morally like we're effectively getting a bargain on this gas, we just are unprepared to pay the cost.
We paid for the gas that we used.
We had meters that weren't even accurate.
That's right, the meters were
Okay.
fixed, we paid National Grid for the gas. I understand what Jack is
Is it
saying. but
gasoline or natural?
Natural gas.
This is an additional
Use it as a
fee
simple
that
argument.
we never should have entered into because there was no reason to enter into it,
Mhm.
okay? That's the point, Jack. I didn't sign the contract, Tommy didn't sign the contract.
Mhm.
It was signed by a clerk that shouldn't have signed the contract.
Okay, yep.
So I'm not comfortable paying $28,000 of taxpayers' money for something that we shouldn't have done. Now, to settle this and keep it out of court, I'm willing to settle it for $14,000. I have town council working on that, I'm hoping that's what we do.
All right, Allison?
I guess I'm wondering if putting this under an article for prior year bills is really the appropriate way to handle
It's
it.
the only way to do it at this meeting because it is an expense from a prior fiscal year. Now,
And
the
it's
Board of
been-
Selectmen can say, take it off, don't do it, and raise it on the recap sheet as a court judgment.
Yes.
But you have to have a court judgment to do that. So there are two ways to do this. You either pay as an unpaid bill, or you go to court and have the court order us, and then we raise it on the recap sheet.
But at this point, we don't have an amount.
I'm
That's
hoping
right.
to have them
So-
out by Monday.
So if Sprague Energy does not agree to the negotiated price of $14,000.
Comes off.
Then this comes off and it proceeds down the road anyway. So what we're doing is we're paying them off and making an offer, half of the money they were charging us, $14,000 as opposed to $28,000. And as early as today, they told us, well, it's no longer more than $18,000, we'll settle on $18,000. So here we are, working our way towards town meeting, in my opinion, being extorted a fee. And if they could establish a fee that was fair and equitable, I would support it. But right now, it's not fair and it's not equitable, and we don't even know what it is. So
So you're not willing to pay 14,000?
I'm not willing to pay $14,000.
I'll have a final number. The board can decide Monday night what you want to do.
Okay, I think I need a little tutorial before I defend this article. I'll get it.
Becky, that's
Yeah.
right. Becky,
Yeah,
this was
nice.
originally a very easy
I
article.
know,
This
I
wasn't-
know, that's why
This
you
wasn't
do.
supposed to be on here.
I want you to know that I used to always have questions on this.
They were always easy.
Better you than me.
All right.
So on,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry,
on Monday night, when we have a number and we discuss this,
If,
we can,
take a position.
Well, if we have a number, we can discuss this. I assume we can then re-vote our positions
Correct.
based on this.
Yes. Yep, that's what I'm hoping you do.
Okay.
I'm gonna jump ahead to Article 6.
Whoa, whoa,
What's wrong with
We're
3?
having- 3, 4,
There's
and
no reason
5.
to discuss articles that you've already taken positions on and haven't changed. I'm
Thank you.
talking about articles,
there absolutely is.
Oh, I apologize.
What's going to be presented, who's moving for or against, and what's their intent to present?
the board is unanimously in support of Article 3. The town manager's summary is very detailed on the 14,500. Barry, do you have any questions on your presentation on that article?
I'm gonna read.
Right, I mean, my assumption would be unless we discuss a presentation beyond that, that whoever it is that's moving this will just read this, pretty much.
That's
Is that-
unless there's an explanation required.
Well, I don't know what the past practice of the board is, so.
So are you suggesting that actually for all articles, you want to pre-approve a presentation by any selectman?
I don't know what the process has
Okay.
been.
The
Sitting
pro-
in the audience, there are people who get up and speak.
Typically, the mover of the article moves the article. If it's a selectman-sponsored article, then the selectman who's designated for that article, after they move it, will present an overview as to what the funds are for and what the mechanism is that's being funded, or what's being created, whether it's a sewer district or whatever it is. And just gives a quick overview. And then questions come in from the audience. If that selectman can answer those questions, they answer them. If not, they'll defer to the town manager, the appropriate group. So,
In the case of this one, Allison, what I would request is that on the screen behind me, there would be a spreadsheet detailing these expenses after, the motion that people could see. And it's basically a copy of the town manager's report. And so there's not really much to present, more than just read off what the different lines are. And if someone has questions, that would be where I would field those questions.
and then there's the explanation that's contained within the printed warrant that was delivered to everyone's home.
Understood.
And you really don't want to vary from that because that's the explanation. You want to elaborate, but not vary. Is that fair?
Yeah,
Not embellish, elaborate.
Yeah, well,
yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about elaborate either, but,
Sometimes there's more.
Respond to questions, respond to clarifications, how about that?
What do you mean by that?
Exactly.
Get it?
no.
Elaborate, what do you mean by that?
Oh
Bad
my
joke.
goodness, I got it.
I apologize,
Slow.
Allison, I misunderstood what
You're not all
question
good.
was. I thought you were addressing articles that the board wasn't unanimously in support of, and the presentation is up to the individual
well,
selectmen.
there's some that are more controversial than others. Let's
Exactly.
get going.
So four, Mark?
Is the $90,000, I don't see any problems, the sewer commission article, the board was in unanimous support, the board does not need to speak to articles unless you choose to speak to them. Capital stabilization fund, $500,000, I asked for the additional funding. Currently, there's a balance of $118,744. Putting this money into the capital stabilization fund will give us a balance surplus of $80,000 over the 1.5% goal, but that's what I asked the selectmen to do, and the board agreed to do that.
And the purpose of this is to replenish the funds that were expended at the Springtown meeting for all the things that were purchased from the capital stabilization account, and that will get us up to the balance recommended by the DOR plus $80,000 additional dollars.
Correct.
That's the explanation that I would give of this.
Article 6, good news.
Good news.
The balance in the capital stabilization fund is at $1,817,000 because we had good interest. So therefore, we do not need to add the 10,000, we're where we need to be at the 5%, and I'm recommending that the board withdraw this article and not take any money out of free cash.
Just to be clear, you said capital stabilization.
I mean
fund.
stabilization
You meant
fund.
general stabilization.
General
fund.
Stabilization.
I apologize.
Just to help.
Yep.
people who might be
Thank you,
confused.
Barry.
So where are we at in terms of the 5%? How far?
We are 13,000 over 5%.
So if it was worth transferring 10,000 in to get to the balance we wanted, do we not now have 13,000 to move out of it?
You can spend the 13,000 in another article. This article does not allow you to take money out. The purpose of the article is to put money in.
It's a majority vote in, it's a 2/3 vote
So when
out.
the article was written, we were under the assumption it needed money in.
Correct. Because I didn't have the final
We-
interest numbers.
We at some point later can decide to move it out, but we can't really change the corners of this article.
Correct.
Okay.
And I don't think we have another article that we could challenge to do that because the other articles are quantum majorities already of majorities, right?
Well, it
For
depends on
example,
the,
could I go back
depends
to
on
Article
what you
3?
use.
Could I go back to Article 3? And could I say to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,450 to fund said increase and transfer from general stabilization fund $13,000 to fund said increase? The problem is that is required
You could
2
say
votes,
that.
right?
What I would suggest you do, if you want to get the balance down to 13.9 instead of hitting free cash, whatever we settle with Sprague, take it out of stabilization. Still requires a 4/5 vote, which is more than 2/3.
No, that's true.
You can decide to do that if you want to get it down to the exact 5%.
Or use the money instead of pulling it from somewhere else.
Yes.
I'm prepared to discuss this next Monday once we know the details and figure out where it's coming from.
To discuss what, the stabilization?
To
Right.
discuss where we would expend the extra $13,000 to drop the stabilization fund down to a net, to where we wanted to put it at. 5%.
I mean, I don't think we necessarily really need to do that. To me, it's more of a point that if it was worth transferring 10
Right.
in and we're now 13 over.
Yeah, no, and it's a valid point, and I agree with 100%. I think that we should try to, basically, we have one point of information that hasn't come to us yet where we could expend that money.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm prepared to discuss that on Monday to decide if we expend it to the Sprague bill, if we're going to have it at all, or we can maybe throw it into Article number 3 instead. I don't know if I guess the question there is, are we legally allowed to? I know it changes the quantum.
The article allows you to expend, the article is written to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds.
Okay,
I've recommended transferring from free cash in a lot of these articles. The board can decide to transfer it from what you want. That's what changes the quantum of vote.
and we just have to maybe warn the moderator ahead of time.
The motions, I need to get the motions to the moderator prior to the meeting, and I don't want to come in at the last minute because Dawn has a presentation that she has to put together. We actually hand these motions out on the
That's
floor of
true.
town meeting. So I want to know tonight if you
Really?
want to take money out of stabilization or free cash.
And we also really should be discussing this with the FinCom too, correct?
Yeah.
You already have, and the FinCom agreed to
Yeah.
where I'm coming.
So what I'm saying is that changes like this, for small amounts like this at this point, is probably ill-advised, and I don't think we've got enough time to really do it
Well,
well.
the FinCom has to revote a couple things that are here, though, by the way. Isn't that what we were
Article
told?
7, they have to,
Article 7, they had to revote.
which we're going to get to now because you guys haven't taken a position.
All
I
I'm
thought I was doing a good thing by saying, let's not put money into the stabilization fund.
You are,
Could've left it
absolutely.
alone.
I agree. I just think it's too late to monkey around with this particular article.
Right.
We can readdress it in the spring if we'd like to as well.
Article 7 on the senior center design, 175,000 from receipts, and then I'm recommending 275 from excess and deficiency. We went out to proposal, and we interviewed in the senior center building committee, and I chose to award the contract for the design of the facility to HKA Associates, Elaine Carl Architects, Inc., and they have given me a bid price for design, development, and contract bidding of $310,000. 305 is their fee, 5 is for reimbursables, and that's for advertising and printing of plans and specs that would go out. We also interviewed organizations to serve as the project manager that we are required to do. Now, I've had several members of the building committee ask why we need to have a project manager, an owner's project manager. Back in 2004, Mass General Law, Chapter 149, Section 44A and a half was created. And basically what that says is, the law requires that an owner's project manager be hired for any and all building project costs estimated to be in excess of $1.5 million. So that is required. We're required to have an OPM for the whole entire project. He's the eyes and ears of the Board of Selectmen in the town over the architect. To me,
Sorry, did you say that was state law?
State law,
Yeah.
Mass General Law, Chapter 149, Section 44A and a half. It requires public awarding authorities to engage the service of an owner's project manager on all building projects estimated to cost 1.5 million or more.
Okay.
So as
We
much
know,
as,
we know you could do this,
I know I could do this, yeah.
but law is telling us we have to expend some
Yeah.
extra cash to put in somebody else's pockets.
So the HKA fee of $310,000 is excellent. And I'm very pleased with that because we were talking about $400,000 on this project. And I was hoping that the owner's project manager would come in less. But one of the things that the building committee decided to do, and I think makes a lot of sense, and I urge the board to support this, is to do cost estimating through the design phase. And have an outside cost estimator, not the architect's cost estimator, an outside cost estimator for the town to come in and do a 30% design cost and a 60% design cost. It makes a lot of sense to do that. And then also to look at materials. That's an additional $31,000. That's part of the $125,000 fee that the OPM is charging us for this project. I think it makes a lot of sense to help the building committee control costs and really design this building to keep the cost in the $3 to $4 million range.
What do you mean a 30% cost and a 60%?
As they go
The
through the design,
architect designs the
Right.
project at 30%, the OPM's cost evaluator will take a look at the drawings and say, okay, based on these drawings, here's how much the building will cost. Then at 60% takes another look. Then at 90%, I believe, takes one more look. So if they're heading in the wrong direction, you're finding that the project's gonna exceed $5 million, okay, hey, scale it back.
Jack, you know, we went through this whole thing when we did the fire station. Having somebody estimate the cost at the various design levels helps you control those costs, and they get a better handle when they get to 100% design, what to expect out on the market.
But we didn't have a third party do it. Our architects did it. And they did it periodically, not at 30 and 60. They did it all the way through.
Yeah.
And then we got to the end, and it was the building was almost way more expensive than we thought it was going to be.
Almost way more expensive?
Yeah, we got, I don't know how many bids, call it 7, and all but one was way outside of our estimated cost. So we were very lucky that one of them did come in at our estimated cost. Turns out it wasn't a great
All but
provider.
two came into our estimated
Okay.
cost.
Turns out the one we chose wasn't a great provider, but had we had a more accurate cost estimation, we would have gone in with with more accurate numbers.
Yeah,
So-
there's risk in having the architect do that versus a third party.
So the bottom line is that the number that you're bringing forward in Article 7 is approximately $50,000 higher than we thought it would be. However, you've explained why it's that much more, and the FinCom has to take a vote to reconsider their position on this, as what they voted on previously was $400,000, and now it's $450,000, and I think Mark's asking us on this number whether we support or not.
The total cost is the $435,000, of which $31,000 is the cost estimated. And then I'd like to have a contingency of $15,000 in the number, just in case an additional test needs to be done or something comes up to help with the project. I'd like to have that contingency. If we don't spend it, it will carry over if we go forward with the construction project. So it wouldn't be money thrown away, but it gives me a little bit of a cushion at this time.
Allison?
Mark, can you remind us what the vote was in terms of support for this from us in the past?
The board never took a position, Allison,
We didn't have the numbers.
because I didn't have the numbers, and the board wanted
Okay.
to wait until you have the numbers, I
And
believe. Is that correct?
I couldn't
I think
recall
so,
having
yeah.
taken a position because we didn't know what the numbers were.
That's- yeah.
I couldn't remember.
and then what information have we gotten, and I know I've asked this in the past, or what is the expectation in terms of what they'll be designing and how we're containing
Well,
or understanding that cost?
I would defer that to the chairman of the senior.
Building committee?
Thank you.
Wow.
Good question, Allison. I'm sorry, I've been here since 5 this morning, it's been a long day.
I'm sorry, could you restate the question again, please?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, now that we have numbers, what guidance has the group given to architect in terms of what you're looking for in design? How are we kind of narrowing in on an appropriate scope?
I mean, I think the larger picture, we've given, I think, some direction to the architect of what their needs are, what our needs assessment were, what the space needs are. We've asked them to look at that. We've asked them to look at a renovation slash addition or a new build. We've asked them to look at both things and to bring that forward. I think having, you know, costs, and we've certainly been very mindful of what the cost impacts might be to taxpayers on this is important, and the architect, I think, understands that. So the guidance to the architect is to look at the needs assessment that we've done, which we actually have modified since the original assessment was done a while back by when we worked with Reinhardt Associates. That's been scaled back a little bit. We've looked at needs assessment, we've looked at programming needs, and we're asking them to take that into, you know, design according to that, you know, analysis that we've done.
So how do we, I don't, maybe I'm alone, but I don't think I have a copy of that. The modified needs. I saw the original needs assessment. I still don't feel like I have enough information to make a decision. I don't know.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, there are some documents, there's some minutes where those discussions occurred, certainly within the committee, where we looked at the original needs assessment that was scaled back somewhat of how much space was needed for particular activities. We looked at different things we could scale back, and the direction that's been given now is to look at something within the range of 9,000 to 11,000 square feet. So that's what we're working with. We can certainly make that available if you don't have that.
Mark, were
Yes.
you saying earlier today that the total sum of the article for 7 is representative of approximately 10 to 13% of building construction costs?
You're looking, the architect's fees are usually between 8 and 12% of the anticipated construction cost. So based on the architect's fees, you're looking at a building of between $3 and $4 million. And that's what Greg has.
Not the OPM, not the
No, the OPM is
contingencies,
separate.
the architect fees. So
Correct.
we've got to break that out. That's-
So you're looking at a building between, because his total fee is about $390,000, of which the excess is for construction, which I wouldn't appropriate now because
Mhm.
you're not doing construction. So based on his anticipated fee, you're looking at a $3.5 to $4 million building.
Does that help you at all, Allison?
And that's what the
At all?
building committee.
Not without knowing what it includes, no.
Okay. I had attended a portion of HK Architect's presentation, the tail end of it, and the beginning of another one. And what I saw certainly was a much more scaled back vision than what was presented at the previous town meeting. That's all I can tell you. I don't know if those plans are available, Peter, or not.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as part of the presentation, the architect will be available, and actually, he does have some renderings of potential floor plans and what those might look like. They're, I think, very conceptual at this point because we actually need to engage in the actual, engineering, set engineering, and construction layout of what a facility might look like, and also reach that decision point of what makes the most sense going forward. Are we talking about a renovation slash addition, or are we talking about new construction? That's going to be a critical decision point the committee will need to make.
Well, when you said floor plans, which one are they for? Are they for new construction or renovation addition?
I think both will be presented at the town meeting. So there are renderings of potentially doing both. The challenges in using the existing structure, because it's multi-level, if you're dealing with concerns and issues of accessibility, these are challenges in how you might integrate that into a new facility. But we understand that we need what we need for programming suites. We need a certain number of square feet for a larger activity room. We need a certain number of square feet for private rooms, for administrative support, for recreation, exercise, activity, those sorts of things. We have an idea of what we need for that. That's been part of our needs assessment, what we've looked at.
To your earlier point about what's going to be done at a presentation, I'm going to move this article, turn it right over to Peter, who's going to make some type of statement along the lines of what's been done so far, and then I presume turn it over to the architect that was selected for some additional information.
One of the things too that I think we all need to keep in mind, Allison, is that a major portion of what is happening in this article is appropriating the money to answer the questions that you have in terms of the design and what the final outcome of the building is going to be. You know, you can have conceptual work that was done by the previous architect. There's an idea of what that building is gonna be like, but until you get into the actual design and prepare those construction documents, there's a lot of work that has to be done to get to that level, and I think the building committee has narrowed the scope to a 9,000 to 11,000 square foot building that has the program needs of the council, how many class, you know, what types of programming they're gonna run out of there, what types of services they wanna offer the seniors in town, how many seniors they think they're going to service within there. That's all been done by the Senior Center Building Committee and the previous,
And that's what's been updated from the original needs assessment? Because it sounds like that document potentially would be exactly what I'm looking for, but.
I think it has been updated based on that.
Yes, it has.
Okay.
We can provide you with that, Allison, and we do have that information, and we can certainly make sure that's available. In fact, I think that would be part of what we want to present. But the original assessment that was done, you know, looked at something that I think was up to 12,000 square
12,000
feet.
square feet, yeah.
And there were numbers that were put out associated with that people got, I think, you know, very focused on. We're sensitive to those numbers, to what the impact might be, and that was part of the process that we went through in looking at the, you know, needs assessment and scaling back some of the, you know, some of the space needs that were related to the programming.
What was the estimated cost range, Mark?
I'm sorry, Jack,
What was the estimated cost range?
for the building,
Yeah, did you say 3 to 4?
3 to 4 based on the architect's fees.
Right. I think you told me that you got a per square foot cost estimate from the architect. What is that?
No. From some of the OPMs, they were saying
Yeah.
that the fees out there are $450 a foot for some of the construction.
Thank you.
Greg hasn't seen that.
Okay. So, 9,000 square feet at 450 a square foot is $4 million. 11,000 square feet at 450 a square foot is $5 million. Neither of those are $3 million. So this is my problem, and this is why I'm concerned, is we're getting this stuff last minute. We've heard a $3 to $4 million with numbers that everybody, that we've heard, 450 a square foot.
Jack, this isn't last minute.
Well,
It's not last minute, and it's not rushed.
Mark, let me finish, please. Okay, this is the first time I've heard $3 to $4 million. First time. And I've been asking you, I've been asking over and over. I said, we're gonna need cost estimates for this. And now I hear $3 to $4 million and 9,000 to 11,000 square feet and 450 a square foot, and those numbers don't work.
I believe I said based on the architect's fees, it's between $3 and $4 million, I believe is what I said.
Okay.
Peter, you want to try and answer Jack's question?
Yeah, I do. I think, I mean, what needs to happen here, and to have a real focused and concrete and realistic conversation about what this is going to cost, is for the architect to do the work, for the project to be bid, and to have bids in hand to know what that cost is going to be. We can sit here, I think, and speculate about what the cost may be based on a percentage of what the architect fee is, but that may not reveal what that final cost is going to be or what's going to be before the town. This work needs to take place in order to have that conversation in a subsequent town meeting, that we know this building is going to cost, you know, X, Y, or Z, but know exactly what that is. Sitting here and trying to speculate, and I think, you know, assume the worst or assume the best is, you know, just not realistic until we actually have an opportunity to have a specific design bid by the, bid by the contractors, put out the bid. We're simply not going to know that.
Asking me to approve or to support $400,000 request without any kind of good numbers on what that request, what the subsequent cost is going to be, is something that I've been very clear I think is bad practice. And then to have those follow-on costs stated at 3 to 4 million, but also given factors that turn into 4 to 5 million, is just not the kind of thing I want to know.
Well, I apologize for...
6 days before town meeting.
I apologize if I gave unrealistic expectations. I was making a statement based on, Josh asked me a question, based on the architect's fees, what is the normal, and I said, based on that, between, it's 8 to 12%, which is a $3 to $4 million building. I said that. Nobody else said that. I said that. They're working right now to get the numbers. They have an architect. We went through the process to come to town meeting. You're asking to design a building. You sat on the fire station building committee. We didn't know what the cost of that building was going to be when we asked for the $800,000. We had a conceptual idea, which is what we have now. We asked for $800,000 at that town meeting. Town meeting gave us the $800,000. We went out and designed the building. The first cost, Jack, came back at $7.9 million on that building, on the original design that the architect came up with. We went back to that architect and said, ain't gonna happen for $7.9 million, scale back the design. He scaled back the design from a 22,500 square foot building to an 18,500 square foot building. That's what we went out to bid for. We came in at a bid price of $5.9 million, which was $2 million under the original estimate that we told everybody of about $7 million. So we're going through the exact same process that you were the chairman of the committee on when we did this 5 years ago or 4 years ago on the fire station. And now you're saying we're coming in at the last minute. No, we're not. We're following the same process that we did back in 2013 when we did the fire station. We're gonna get please, let me finish. We're gonna get architectural fees. We're gonna design, the senior center building committee's gonna work very hard with them. We're gonna go out to bid, and if the project comes back at $5 million, then I was dead wrong based on the fees. I'm sorry, we did a shitty job designing the building, or the market went crazy.
Except that, as you point out, we told people what the expected cost was going to be, and we came in under that. Here, we haven't told people what the expected cost is going to be.
I told you based on the fee.
Okay, look, you guys are going back and forth with one another. Jack, I understand your point. Mark, you've made your point. Allison has a point to make now.
I don't know that I do. I just want to say that at this point, I agree with what I'm hearing from Jack. I think that end product set aside, what I would like to avoid is that step in the fire station process where something was designed, the cost was too high, the work was redone, and it came in lower. I'm really struggling as an individual based on my background with the idea that we're going to design something and we're not constraining either budget or scope in any substantive
I
manner.
don't think you understood what I said.
Maybe.
During the design process, we had the $800,000, so figure 800 versus 400 this time, 450. We had the architect come in and start designing the building with that $800,000. His initial cost estimates said you need a 22,500 square foot building, it's gonna cost you $7.9 million. The building committee said, we're not gonna spend 7.9 on this, if that's what you're estimating the cost to be. Scale the building down and get it down to 18,500, which is the minimum requirement that we felt we needed for the fire station. And he said, okay, the bid should come in between $6 and $6.3 million. We went out to bid based on that. Our bids came in at $5.9 million. We threw in the contingencies and everything else, and we went back to town meeting and asked for $6.2 million additional dollars to construct the fire station. We would follow the exact same process here. We have $400,000. 450,000. We start to design the building. They go through the estimates at 30 and 60%. They say, okay, well, you know, maybe the building can come in at $4 million. Is a committee comfortable with $4 million? Yes, continue on that design phase. It's the exact same process we're following. You have a cost estimate. It's a 9,000 square foot building, estimated to be around $4 million. We follow this process very successfully in the past. So if you want exact numbers right now, there's nobody in the town of Groton that can give you the exact number right now. So I can't give you the exact, but they're telling you that they've scaled the building back from 12,000 to between 9 and 11. They think they can do it for 9. They have a preliminary idea from the architect. They're gonna go through a design phase. They're gonna go through cost estimating, and then they're gonna go out to bid.
Understood, and I've been asking for quite some time to see what that reduced scope is,
I think Peter
so
said
that I
they
can have an
that.
understanding.
Okay.
I don't have that information.
I think we should all
The
have
piece,
that. We've all been asking.
absolutely. The piece I would like to avoid in the process that you outlined, which I did understand, is the part where it's designed, it's found to exceed estimates that people are comfortable with, and it's scaled back at that point. I would prefer to set a realistic either budget or scope in advance so that we understand what we're designing to and what we anticipate a back of the envelope cost to be.
But if you use 10,000 square feet, for an example, which is smack in the middle of the 9 to 11,000, and you use construction standard application of $350 to $400 per square foot, you've got a $4 million bill.
We were
and I
told
have
it was
no
450.
idea what I'm gonna build.
Well, I can't tell you what we're gonna build. All I can tell
Understood,
you
but
is what
someone
I've seen
should
in
be
the
able to
conceptual
before we spend
drawings.
$400,000 to design it.
But that's up to the feasibility committee or the senior center design committee to make a presentation at town meeting as to what the space needs are and what the cost will be, so you have a maximum ceiling of what this will cost.
Understood, but I think that that group should be able to present to us in advance of that time, since they want our vote to approve this, or to support this.
So then,
And it shouldn't be a town meeting floor that we're finally getting an understanding of what's been before us for several months.
Peter, can you have your committee come to the Board of Selectmen's meeting next Monday night and make a presentation to us, as much as I'd like to see
To
it
me,
now?
that's far too late
That's,
regardless.
yeah, that's irrelevant.
May I speak, Mr. Chairman? I guess I'm a little disturbed to hear that the members of the board, I mean, this has certainly been on the public agenda for quite some time now. We have spent a great deal of time in terms of meetings and talking about building scope, service, and stuff like that. There are volumes of information available. There are minutes or documents that are posted on our website that contain that information. I'll certainly make sure I get it to you. Our committee is meeting 6:15. We have a posted meeting the night of town meeting. We're making a presentation. But that scope is certainly out there, and that's work that's been done, and it's been in the public domain. And I'm sorry you haven't availed yourself of that, because it certainly is out there.
I just have to say, I have asked several times for more information, and I did go back and read all the minutes, and this information isn't in the minutes about scaling back and that the needs assessment was changed. Those things, I think, I appreciate that you guys have worked hard, but I don't think it is widely known in the public the way that it is among the people who've been intimately involved.
I'm sorry to hear that. The information's available. I'll point it out or direct you to how you can find it, but it certainly is there.
Where would I find total, I mean, this is the first time I've heard a total cost number, and again, even as it came out, it was
Arlene,
challenge.
let the board talk first, please.
We can't, again, Jack, we can't answer what the total final cost is going to be until we have something designed and estimates are put out there. Maybe it's better to frame the question this way. How much do you want to spend on a senior center for Groton seniors?
That's not what I asked for.
Well, no, you're asking for a number, though.
If you're gonna ask me a question, please let me answer the question. So
Well, answer
that's-
my question, I guess.
I'm trying to,
Gentlemen.
you asked me how much I want to spend, I'm telling you that's not what I've been asking for. I've been asking for, what will this project cost, what is the range? I'm just looking for a range. I did hear Mark reference to me almost a week ago, maybe more, that there's some expectation of $450 a square foot. I'm now hearing 9,000 to 11,000 square feet. That's all that I needed to know, really. 9,000 to 11,000 square feet at $450 a square foot is somewhere between $4 and $5 million. That's fine, but the thing that really gets me is that that's the first time that the final number comes to me. It also gets me that one cost estimation is based on extrapolating from an architect's fee. That takes us to 3 to 4 million. The other cost estimate is based on the hard industry number of 450 a square foot times the footage here. This is the wrong time to be discovering this, and that's what I'm concerned about.
I guess I would respond to that. I mean, we revealed, or actually revealed us, I think, during the interview with the respondents to the OPM RFP. We saw a wide range of what was being quoted to us by the project managers working in the public sector, from the 350 per square foot up to 500 per square foot. So different companies quoting different jobs get different numbers.
Okay.
We're not going to know, again, we're not going to get to the point that you want to get to about what a hard number is until we actually have a project that's designed, has gone out to bid, and we get responses from contractors that are going to bid the project. There's a range out there.
So I feel like I'm being told, you want these numbers, Jack, and we're not going to give them to you. Not that we can't. We can give you the numbers. We can say that square footage is 9,000 to 11,000, and we can say that the cost per square foot is between X and Y, but we're not going to tell you. That's what I think I'm hearing.
No, we're telling you that we don't know exactly what that is, because the industry experience right now, there's a range out there. That's what we heard. So we don't know exactly what that is yet.
I would love to hear that range. And the other thing is that
Well, I just told you.
These interviews you did with the OPMs was what, a week ago? And so you can't expect me to go out and watch those interviews and go dig and find what those numbers are. If you would like if you don't care what I have to say about this in terms of supporting article, that's fine. If you want my support of the article, bring me the information.
Jack, you have a range of between, based on the numbers that were given, between 3.5 and $5 million to build this building, okay? You know that, all right?
I know it
But
now,
none of-
6 days before town meeting.
None of us knew that number until tonight.
But
And we don't know what it
the
includes
architect's
still.
numbers until
But you didn't
yesterday.
have the answer, so now you have the answer. So you need to reconcile yourself that this building will cost between 3.5 and $5 million. And so does every town meeting voter. And town meeting will vote this up or down based on the merits of that without having more definitive and more specific numbers going into town meeting. And
I don't
that's
think
the way.
that's fair, because
Well,
I don't think,
it
I
might-
don't think it's all about the end number. To me, I wanna know, what is the expectation? The original needs assessment included a significant, in my mind, billiard hall. Is that still part of this?
That's up
I
to the
don't know.
presentation to be made.
Understood, and I'm with Jack. That's fine.
Okay.
That's great. If you want my support in advance, I need information. I don't have the information I need.
And you've made that very clear, and
Good.
Peter's tried to articulate his position on this, and a lot of the stuff's coming in very late, and that's unfortunate. Barry, and then Becky, and then Marlena.
So I heard 9,000 to 11,000 square feet, and I heard $350 to $500 a square foot for construction. The range I'm getting when I run those numbers is 3.15 million to 5.5 million. I recognize, what I thought you were originally saying was you want a ceiling. You don't want a ceiling. You don't want to match
I wanna
lots.
know
You wanna know
what I'm getting.
You want to know what the aspects
is
of
the
the building
plan?
are, what's the plans, those kinds of things. I
Absolutely.
agree. So I understand that. As I heard you speak more, I learned what you were articulating, and I appreciate that. You know, when we went for the construction project on Four Corners, one of the very successful things that a conglomeration of many boards have done, there was a limit, and there was a limit on purpose to outline and define the town's spending. But given that that's not what's being asked for here, I guess I can't help move this forward. And I apologize for that.
Becky?
Well, so I understand that before you start, you don't have the facts you need, and it's a chicken and an egg thing. But the description of what went on with the fire station, it got designed, it went, and then the estimate looked really high, and the committee said scale it back. So if that happens on this committee, I guess there must be some sort of a vague number in mind about what is too high and what is scale it back to.
Perfect point. I understand exactly what you're saying. The original building design back in the spring was for a 12,000 square foot building, and the estimated cost was $6.9 million. It was thoroughly rejected on the ballot. It passed town meeting, as a matter of fact, when that presentation was made by a 2/3 vote. Okay? When they said it's gonna be 12,000 square foot building, estimated cost of 6.9, it passed town meeting by a 2/3 vote. Went to the ballot overwhelmingly destroyed that number, as you all recall. So now the building committee went back and said, okay, 12,000 square feet and 6.9 is not gonna cut it. We need to really cut back. So they talked to architects, and they got it down. They said between 9,000 and 11,000 square feet will get us in the $4 million range. That's where we wanna be. So they've sort of done the same thing, Becky, that the fire station committee did, but they've done it a little bit longer process than what the fire station committee did. But they are doing that, and I apologize if I appear frustrated, but to get everything that everybody needs, and I understand Allison's request for the programming, which Peter will get for her, and I understand Jack wants to know an exact number, but we can't give you an
Never asked
exact
for an
number.
exact
A
number.
range.
Huh?
He wants a range.
Well, I think you answered what the range is based on the square footage and based on the architect's fees. I can't tell you anything else. I wish I could tell you exactly what this building costs, but, you know, look what happened with the town of Westford. The town of Westford, when they went to build their fire station, hired the architect, they went through the process, and the architect said, well, there's gonna be this and this and this, and they came up with a number. And then when they went into the design phase of the building, based on that number, the architect came back and said, uh-oh, we're about $1.2 million off of what you appropriated at town meeting. We were wrong with the number. And then the town had to scramble to cut it down. We're not doing it that way. We are trying to do it in steps where you design it, go out to bid, have bids in hand, go to town meeting so you know the exact cost. And right now, They're looking at a 9,000 to 11,000 square foot building based on the programming that, Peter, you will get to the board from the committee tomorrow, or tonight, whenever you can.
I think the individual homeowner, if they're gonna build, the first question that any professional that they consult is gonna say, well, what is your budget? And may then turn around and say, you know, with that budget, the thing that you want, it can't be done, or at least I can't do it. In this case, I know we have tried to say, we want the space that meets our needs. And I understand that there is also a sense now, well, what's your budget? Our budget is something under 6.9 or whatever it was last spring that was defeated. I think it would be a little bit helpful if there were a way to convey. We do have an upper limit in our minds about what we would approve. And we think it is in this range. To say that in your presentation, I hope that that would be part of it.
You want to respond to that, Peter?
Yeah, I can. I mean, I think the committee, again, was very mindful of the process we went through last spring, and I think heard a very strong message from people that were concerned about cost. And I think we understand, and we certainly have talked about it, that we do not think going forward at the Springtown meeting with a building that costs $5 million is going to work or is going to fly. So I think we understand sort of where our upper limit is or ceiling, but we're also concerned about, you know, drawing a line in the sand and saying this is going to be the exact number without knowing exactly what it is we're going to do. Are we doing a new building? Are we doing an add renovate? We had a lot of people express an opinion that an add renovate is going to be cheaper to do than new construction. We need to look at that again, and that's going to be part of, I think, the process going forward, and that's something the architect needs to look at.
I'm going to interject here. I understand, you know, my colleague's perspective on this, and I'm extremely supportive of stopping the process of kicking the can down the road in time to get something done. However, I want to make sure we don't waste $450,000 by taking this to a design phase that yields a product that can't be funded, and that would be silly. So I personally think that somebody should make and prepare a motion to amend this article, not to exceed $4.25 million as a ceiling. And where am I coming up with that number? I'm coming up with that number based on a significant reduction and also putting a ceiling on this project saying, well, if you can't do it for this amount of money, then the town's probably not going to be able to afford to do it, and it's not going to be a success. And while that number may seem arbitrary, and maybe it is, by the same token, some things can be cut out of a programmatic design that are needed without sacrificing the core needs of a senior center. And that's really going to be up for you to work with the architect on. But by putting a ceiling on this doesn't leave this thing open-ended. And I strongly urge you to work with your committee in order to come up with this line in the sand that you're not going to.
Fire station. Why
Well,
would you do with this project?
because if you want success with the competing interests that are out there, such as the amounts of money that the schools are going to require over the next 10 years to meet their capital needs, for the amounts of money you need to, you know, manage your municipal budget, that you do need to draw a line in the sand on this one. But I'm tired of ignoring the seniors, and by putting a number on this, we'll get this project done, Peter.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, again, I can't emphasize enough how mindful the committee is of the, I guess, upper limit or appetite that the town has or taxpayers have for further expenditures. We certainly get that, and we're going to be dedicated to making sure that you know, that number is managed. I get nervous about drawing hard numbers in the sand right now without knowing what some of those details are. We're going to need, at the end of the day, to make a case to townspeople at town meeting in the spring, if this goes forward, that this is what makes sense and this is what we want your support for and your support for at the ballot for debt exclusion. We have to make that case, make a good case for it. If we can't make it, it's not going to happen anyhow. And we're not going to go forward with a program or with a design or with a building that is not going to garner that support when we go to the Springtown meeting. So I hear what you're saying, that may be a very good number. I feel nervous about saying that yes, indeed, that is the number without knowing what the architect has had a chance to design. And there, again, there is a range. We certainly heard quotes on what the current going rate is for construction, public sector construction cost per square foot, and there is a range out there. And we're never going to really know that until we go out to bid on
I
something
get
like
it,
that.
and the longer you wait, the more expensive it's gonna get.
Oh, absolutely. It's already, again, it's
I
already
get it.
gotten more expensive
I
since
get,
last
Peter, I
spring.
get it. So let Marlena speak, and then we're gonna come back to this board to see if we can get any further with taking a position on this.
So I just wanted to say, last time I was in this room and we were discussing, well, I wasn't discussing, I was watching you discuss warrant articles. And the senior warrant article was up there in regards to this design. Jack was not here, so I can understand why he would not think that these numbers coming out of the blue here for the $3.5 to $5 million. I heard Kathy sit here and say, last time that this did not fly when we tried to go for $450 per square foot. So clearly, in my mind as a taxpayer, if they go for $450,000 a square foot again, it again is not going to pass the ballot. I think they know that. I think that they know what they're after, something that will do the job, will get the seniors what they need. The senior center has so many issues in regards to non-compliances right now. If it doesn't get fixed, whether it be through a rehab or a renovation to some sort or a rebuild, the town has such more liability than not doing anything at all. So I just don't understand the concept of holding off because it may be somewhere between $3.5 to $5 million, which we will not know unless we have an architect draw up some designs so we can find out what it is. And when you hire an architect to draw designs, you certainly can say, I have a ceiling. This is about my ceiling, whether it be $5 million, whatever the programs require, that can give that cap. And I'm sorry, but I'm not in any situation, you will never hear me as a taxpayer say, you can build a $3.5 million building because that's all that you're worth. Because that's what that tells me. No more I will say a school can be built for Flora for $3.5 million. To me, that's ludicrous. Let them find out how much is needed to build something that adequately allows the programming to take place in a safe building. And that's what the money is spent for. And if they're gonna aim for a Taj Mahal, clearly they know it's not going anywhere.
Good points, Marlena. All right, listen, we're only at Article 7 discussion, and we haven't talked about 3 articles, and we expect to get through this at town meeting in one night. At any rate, would the board like to take a position on this, or no position?
We
Poll on
defer
the
to
board.
town meeting.
You can defer to town meeting.
I'd like to defer to town meeting.
Defer to town meeting.
I think I'll defer also.
I'm in support.
Support.
Article 8 is the capital stabilization fund for the school district, $500,000 transfer from the excess and deficiency fund. Josh is presenting it, the board is unanimous on that article.
Yeah, could you just emphasize to the public that there's a misprint in the?
Yeah, the moderator will do that. When I made my original thank you, Becky, for reminding me about that. When I made my original recommendation to the board, I had asked for $600,000, and that's what I drafted in my report. When the board knocked it back to 500, and we all agreed with the finance committee to make it 500,000, I changed the article, but I failed to change my town manager's report. So in there it says we're asking for 600,000. The number is 500,000.
It's
I apologize for that.
a Scrivener's error. We talked about it this morning. This afternoon. Seems like this morning was so long ago. With the moderator. The moderator will be making a statement at the beginning of town meeting about the error, and that the motion will read as follows. And I will present this. Allison, do you want to hear what I'm going to say?
No.
Well, if she
No.
wants to. She's asked in the past.
I apologize, this is getting blown way out of proportion. I don't necessarily need to know what is going to be said. I just wanted to be clear for my own understanding that if, Josh, if you're moving this, I don't expect to see Barry stand up and say, here's what the Board of Selectmen really think.
No, that's why the mover of the article makes the presentation.
And that's all I'm.
I've got a firm grip on this. We've been talking about this for years. I have a good explanation
you
on
do.
this. And I'm sure that if I miss something, Marlena will help me with it. Am I right on that?
Absolutely.
I thought so.
Article 9 on the Groton Dunstable phone and internet. Now, Barry, you actually sponsored this article. It did come from the schools originally. Do you want to move this, or do we want Marlena to move it and present it?
I'm happy to defer to the chair's assignment of Marlena Gilbert to present this article.
This wasn't the chair's assignment.
This was my assignment. I originally had Barry, I originally had you proposing it, and then I thought today that it's a school article, maybe we should have Marlena present it. So I'll defer to what you guys want to do.
Marlena, would you like just to do this? I mean, I don't have any problem doing it on
Well,
your
we know
behalf.
how shy I am, but I have no problem doing this. However, I think that I really do appreciate the collaboration that we've seen between the peer boards, and I think that sponsoring the article says a lot in regards to that collaboration. I also feel that by Board of Selectmen moving it, it continues that collaboration and unity in regards to the support for the town and the schools. So that's why I'm for you actually moving it.
Then I would respectfully request that the board agree to let me move this article.
I would suggest, Barry, that you move it, but when it comes time for explanation, certainly work in conjunction with Marlena as well as the superintendent and the IT department of the school district if required.
Yeah, I plan
Is
to
that
just
fair?
read the motion.
Okay.
Article 10,
Or I
cyclical.
can read the email Luke
So
sent.
change that back to Barry, please.
I did.
We'll get it.
Okay, so.
Article 10, cyclical inspections. I went out to bid, as I told the board, we opened the bids on Thursday. We had anticipated 110,000, the bid came in at 103.5. So I'm very happy about that,
That's to do it all.
all at once,
Which is a,
Excellent.
which is a savings of,
about $6,500.
so, small savings,
Yeah.
but more importantly, it's not just the savings on the expense, it's the ability to get the fairness established year one and the tax equalized and established year over year from here forward.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Complete
Can-
streets.
Can I
Yes,
just
you're on.
clarify, so on Article 10, for example, where we're not moving that,
Right on.
my assumption would be that since the board hasn't designated anyone to speak, that no one would stand up and say, the Board of Selectmen thinks this.
No, because the moderator sometimes says the selectmen are in unanimous support.
Absolutely.
Warren said the selectmen in unanimous support, so,
Jonathan will be explaining
John,
this.
yeah, Don moves it and then Jonathan will explain it.
That's fine.
Great.
Complete Streets Engineering, Michelle Collette will move it. That is the $45,000 to pay for the hiring of the engineer for the design of the traffic safety program. The Complete Streets Committee presented. The selectmen do not have to say anything. You were unanimously in support of it. I'm going to ask the board, because it's 9:15 at night and I want to be here for another 45 minutes, I'm going to ask the board to reconsider your position on offsetting the tax rate. And I have an explanation as to why.
Wait a minute, are you,
Article 12, he's asking.
yeah, are you changing?
Currently with 3 to
amount?
2 against, correct?
3 to 2 in favor.
And 3 to 2 in favor, I apologize, I've already seen that.
And I'm going to ask the board to reconsider the position on this. What you see in front of you is the anticipated expenses at this town meeting and the money coming out of the various accounts for free cash.
You have to raise your hand.
I put the 14,000 in as a placeholder here on the prior year bills. You see 500,000 to the cap staff, 275 for the senior center design, 500 for the capital stabilization fund, 346 for the schools, 103.5 for the cyclical inspections, 45,000 for the complete streets, and then 100,000 to offset the tax rate. That'll leave a balance of $484,901 in free cash. From there, we've already discussed that we're going to take $272,000 out of free cash at the Springtown meeting to offset debt service, and then another $100,000 to offset OPEB. That is our plan. That is what we would be proposing. That will leave us a balance in free cash of $112,000. I don't want to go that low.
Those last set of figures aren't on this.
That's correct.
Correct.
Oh, no, I'm just telling you. I'm telling you, you have 484 after this meeting. And then
Yeah.
we're planning 272 and another 100, which will leave a balance of $112,000 in free cash. I'm not comfortable going that low. I would like to leave over 200,000 in free cash, as you know.
What was the 272?
272 is to offset debt. And the reason it's not on here is because this is the fall town meeting. I wanted to see the balance at the end of fall town meeting. And then there's another 372,000 that would come out of that in anticipated spending in free cash at the Springtown meeting. offset the debt,
And
OPEB.
what was- The other 100 is what, is the 100,
OPEB.
wait, what's the other 100 that will come off?
OPEB,
Oh, OPEB,
the board
sorry.
has previously, how about this? 100 may come out, because the board has previously decided to fund an extra $100,000 in OPEB in addition to the pass-through we do for the
correct,
employees'
Correct.
retirement benefits.
correct.
We could change our mind on that 100.
Yeah, but because we're potentially going out to bond, I want to show the bonding companies that we're serious about OPEB.
I get it.
So I really want to put that extra 100,000 in there. So I'm not comfortable with $112,000 left in free cash. So I would ask the board to support the finance committee's position not to offset the tax rate at this meeting, because the benefit will be by paying down debt earlier, saving the taxpayers money, and by putting money into OPEB, which hopefully will get us, maintain our AAA bond rating, which will be lower interest rates when we go out to bid, which saves the taxpayers money, which could be more than the $12 or the $24 that you have at this meeting. So I'd ask the board to please reconsider that position and not offset the tax rate.
Board members, those in the affirmative were Jack, Becky, and Barry, I believe.
Yes.
I
My
believe you
memory
and Allison
serves me
voted
correct?
against it. I believe you and Allison voted against it, yeah.
Francis. Would anybody like
Do you
to?
suppose you and Allison voted against it
We
because you
voted
wanted?
against this already, so we
No, wait, because you wanted more, or you wanted to not give it
wanted
back?
to keep more, or at least my position was, I wanted to keep more stronger reserves in free cash for
Okay.
potential other uses come spring.
Agreed.
Okay, so the 100,000 that we were comfortable putting in before got eaten up by Sprague and extra for the, where did the rest of it go?
Well,
Senior center
additional money for senior center design.
Senior Center Design. That
Yeah.
went up 75 there?
And then we also, originally, we were only gonna transfer 27,000 for the cyclical inspections in the first year. Actually, we're gonna raise and appropriate that. We decided to do it all up front and take 103,000 more out of free cash. So I'd say,
We talked about that.
I would say, Becky, that the major was the 103,000 for the cyclical inspections, which is the main reason for the lower balance. The Sprague and the Sprague and the senior center was only 64,000.
What was the logic on the cyclical inspections, on funding that all ahead of time?
Do it all up once, Jack, to stabilize and pick up all the growth earlier to help with the tax
Put
rate.
everybody on equal footing.
Correct. And potentially pick up growth.
And it gets good data in the system as early as possible.
Yep. That was the rationale.
So rather than spread it out over N years, do it all in 1 year?
It was gonna be $22,000 a year over 5 years for $110,000. Now it's $103,000 in 1 year, and that $103,000, if it's expended and implemented, levels the playing field and creates potential new growth
No, I get
revenues
it.
all at once. Is that fair?
That's exactly correct. Now, you could go back, the bid now to do it in 1 year is $20,700.
I get it.
All right, I'll change my position.
Well, being on the side, but you have to make a motion instead to reconsider the vote.
This is just positions
No,
on
it's
warrant
just
articles.
No, you voted to put 100,000.
Yeah.
Did we vote? Oh,
Yeah.
then you do.
Becky needs to
Thank
make
you.
that motion.
Vote was technically at least 100,000.
At least
At least
100,000.
that was the vote. So Becky's asking to reconsider that vote.
Is that what
So
would you
she's
like to
right.
make a motion to reconsider your position?
Yes.
Motions are
Aye.
made to reconsider the position on this article.
I'll second the motion.
Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to reconsider, say aye.
Aye.
Can we say aye?
Of course you can.
Well, I was on the negative side.
Doesn't
Aye.
matter.
Okay,
Full board.
I'm not used to doing that.
Full
All right.
board vote.
Now, a motion to consider offsetting the tax rate by a rate of $0.
I move that we offset the, how are we gonna word this? We don't put anything in.
You don't put anything, just say, I move that we not offset the tax rate.
We not offset the tax
That'll
rate.
work too.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Barry, did you say anything?
No,
I didn't hear anything.
I didn't say anything.
That's 3 in favor of the motion, 1 against, and we're waiting.
Given that, I think there's more long-term, God, this bothers me, but taxpayer benefit to do the sick rule inspections all at once to repair an error that was made so long ago. I think that's a better use of taxpayer funds, and it gets the right data into our system, which makes future assessing cycles better. So I'm in favor of not offsetting the tax rate,
I
painfully so,
I applaud your logic. It's very sound, Barry.
painfully so.
Yes.
So, I'm the mover of this article, it would be silly for me to move it and then be in favor of it.
Point.
Yep,
We need to
so-
change the mover. Somebody want to take it?
I can do that.
Thanks, Becky.
Becky's got it. Article 13.
Should be real easy, no questions, right?
Yeah, well, the finance committee's in support of you now, so.
This one should be real easy.
So, the Station Ave, the board voted last week, you're in unanimous support to this, the Light Commission will move it. I don't know if the board needs to take a position, say anything in the floor town meeting unless there's a question. I think you support it, right?
Well, isn't this parcel of land under control of the Board of Selectmen?
Yeah, you ultimately, it's actually the light department, but only the selectmen can sell municipal land. Not the
what I
light
mean.
department, yeah.
Didn't we already
We took
take a
positions.
position last week on this?
You did,
We did.
Yes, thank you.
yep, that's what I'm saying, so you don't have to make a presentation.
All right.
Following on what
I
Allison was asking.
misunderstood you, okay.
We'll let the applicant who's.
I'm still stunned by the last vote, you'll have to give me a few moments.
Okay. 14
Have a drink.
14 and
There's not enough,
15.
there's not enough drinking now.
14 and 15, the Four Corner budget, the board, Barry's presenting those, the board's in support. My understanding is the sewer commission is gonna get up in support
I
of the
can't,
articles as well.
I can't present something that says 4 corners on it for an enterprise.
Please.
I can't do it.
Do you want
Barry,
I'll do it
please.
if you like.
That's okay.
Article
Thank you.
16,
Yeah, without getting.
Article 16 is to amend the CPC bylaw. Bruce Easton will present that.
Yes, sir.
The board was in support of that. I don't know if the board needs to take a position on that. Article 17, Josh will present the code of the town of Groton changes, which is the anti-litter and snow. However, I do need to tell the board that if this does go to a second night and this article comes up, Josh will not be available the following Monday. So we may want to have an alternate person prepared for this.
I'm happy to.
Thank you,
take
Barry.
the secondary all.
All right.
Thank you.
Chamberlain Mills Lane is a very, this is a road acceptance. The board accepted the layout, pretty straightforward. And then you'll see on Article 19.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Will you please carefully look at the drawings and see if it's Chamberlain Mills or Chamberlain's Mill?
Chamberlain's Mill.
Boy, I live on the street right
Wait,
next
they're
to it.
both
And I
S's?
haven't
No,
gotten it.
that's Chamberlain's
Chamberlain's Mill.
Mill.
That's what the plan says.
We've triple
I
checked. Yeah.
went back, she looked at it, I looked at it, Taki, she looked at it, but you know something, Josh? I'm looking at it again tomorrow
But that
morning.
makes more sense, because it's one mill owned by Chamberlain.
Okay, thank you.
And then the final article, because Mr. Palmer did not show up to the planning board meeting, the planning board took a negative vote on the zoning. And based on that, Mr. Palmer, because apparently there's a purchase and sales agreement, contacted the town hall and said he's no longer moving forward with this particular article. He couldn't get the 10 signatures from the people to remove it. So therefore, what I proposed to the town council and the moderator today is that the selectmen simply get up, move it, and withdraw it. The planning board doesn't have to give a report. And I put
I
it down,
feel
Jack.
really awkward about having a selectman, no matter if it's Jack, me, Becky, Allison, or
Barry.
Barry.
Oh, thanks.
No, I got us all. Make a motion to indefinitely postpone a citizen's petition article. It just doesn't
So,
seem right. Can we
Have
ask?
any
How
of
about-
the
how
other
about if there's
signers?
just nobody to move it? Is he,
Town council, the town moderator asked that very question, and town council's answer, well, that makes sense, is because it's on the warrant, somebody should move something. So,
So how many, there had to
Maybe
be
the town
10?
clerk could move it.
There were 10 signatures?
Yes, doing it.
so what I'll do.
Has anyone been contacted of the rest of the 10?
Just ask Mr. Palmer to show up.
okay,
So-
tell him
He's
so.
prepared to,
I
yeah.
said so.
I wonder if we could make a motion to take this out of order? Just to get it out of
That
the
way
way.
he can.
That way he can show up and
early,
leave if he doesn't want to stay.
and we get it done, and he doesn't have to.
You
take
can
it.
absolutely do that.
You know?
I think that's a great solution.
The moderator actually can do that.
Yeah.
And the moderator can say at the beginning of the meeting, because Article 19 has been withdrawn by the proponent, I'd like to accept the motion to withdraw that article. He can do that at the
By
beginning.
unanimous consent,
By
he can
unanimous
even do
consent,
it,
he can do that.
right?
So why don't I talk to the
Wait,
moderator?
to withdraw it or to take it out of order?
To both.
Both, you can
Both.
do either.
Just do both. Just
But-
get it out of the way.
The moderator will the moderator will suggest it be taken out of order, someone will make a motion to take it out of order, that motion theoretically passes, then, Mr. Palmer comes up and makes a motion.
You know, he may not even come
He
up.
may not have to come up. The moderator can say,
Just
by
remove this by
unanimous consent,
unanimous
take it out.
consent, take it off the warrant.
That's what I would suggest.
Yeah,
But
we
I'm going
talked
to leave
with
the
Jason
motion,
about that.
for now, I'm going to leave the motions as is until, because Dawn has to finalize her work.
Moving right along, sir.
I would like to adjourn the meeting.
We have under
Or other business?
other business.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
We have an unresolved situation still concerning executive session discussions relative to Indian Hill and their permit fees that we're continuing to work on. That's the other business report. Regularly scheduled meeting minutes of,
Just,
yes, sir.
just quickly, Selectmen liaison.
Oh, I apologize.
No, that's okay. I realized that I actually am not the Selectmen liaison for the CPC, even though I was going about the business of being that liaison and reporting back to the board and coordinating with them.
Which one of us is negligent?
Well, it doesn't matter.
It's me.
What I,
It's me, isn't it?
what, doesn't matter. What I would recommend instead is that, I would say that and I've had this on the agenda past, I've just been waiting for a lot of our business prior to town meeting to go through, is that we have a policy on liaison that is up, and perhaps at the meeting, not necessarily right following town meeting, but one right thereafter, that we can discuss these liaison ideas and considerations and maybe formalize a more rigorous structure or idea around what we want to do with liaisons. Because I think it's kind of nebulous, and I don't think anybody cared or minded. In fact, they're probably happy that I was up there on Monday nights late with the CPC, but I don't want to usurp anybody else's, ability to do that. So I think it would be just perfect maybe to take
October
this up.
30th, Mark, will you please add that to the agenda?
So are we gonna meet on that Monday if it's not a town meeting?
Josh won't be
Yes.
here.
Okay.
Josh, what?
You won't be
Will
here
not
on
be here on
October
October
30th.
30th.
I got a phone.
Okay.
So, or actually, let's make it November 7th.
And we're like-
I'd rather not have it right afterwards. There's so many things we might want to catch up on. Miss, I'm sorry, I'm not the chair.
When I'm not
Yes.
here, you can do that. Ms. Sartini.
Yes. My question is involving the other business,
Yes.
and what I understand you said, an issue continues to be unresolved per executive session minutes, and therefore you're not taking any further action on this tonight?
I said that we voted in executive session not to release the minutes of October 10th.
Okay.
And that concerning the wording of the other business to vote to approve a building permit fee for Indian Hill Music, that is unresolved, and we're still working on that situation, so
Thank
that's
you.
where we're at currently.
That's all I needed.
We should probably actually vote in
Was it
open
clear?
session to approve those executive session minutes, because they're on the schedule.
We can reaffirm the vote. So, regularly scheduled meeting minutes of September 25th, 2017.
I make a motion to approve all 3 sets of minutes.
We should do executives. No, I
I'll
follow.
release executive session. If she amends that motion, that's fine.
Yeah, and not.
And not release executive session minutes.
Seconded.
Further discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
Commendation for Ms. Manugian's outlining report of the OML training. Mark, would you be kind enough, now that these are approved minutes, to see that there's notes on the OML training get to every board?
As a matter of fact, I was going to ask if the selectman wanted me to do that, because a certain resident today said those were the best minutes she's ever read and thinks we should distribute them. And I said, yes, Don did a great job.
Oh, man.
Don does a
Works
great
for me.
job, but Allison does a really
Allison, I'm
good
just
job
giving
as
you a
well.
hard time.
I concur.
I am happy to have Don please with me.
So,
I think it'd be very useful because I.
Yeah, no, I agree, we should do that, so Dawn, why don't we distribute all those
I
minutes?
we need these minutes to go to every appointed
Yep.
And
board.
elected board.
And elected, why not
And
send them to
elected,
elected?
send
Everybody.
all the elected boards appointed
FYI.
across the
Why don't we print them
board.
in the paper?
There were a few items in there,
It's
Mark,
too
too,
much
where I
paper.
had made notes that Lauren was gonna get us stuff,
Oh, okay.
like the 10 executive reasons and stuff. Can you
Motion
just-
to adjourn, we're adjourned. I made the motion. We're gone.
Declare.
Good night. I
So-
declare it.
I totally
No, you don't need to make a
forgot.
motion to adjourn.
That's okay. It's not a big deal.
We're good.
I had a funny conversation
Brain
with
failure.
Conscom